India will be a superpower in 10 years. 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits who are Hindus were driven out, either forcibly converted or their women were forcibly married off. This is an internal insurrection and we have got to put it down. All our finance ministers of Mr. Narendra Modi have no idea that economics is, there are two branches of economics. One is microeconomics and there's macroeconomics. We can grow at 10% or 12%. And we do that for 10 years. And we can, and we will. We are committed by a parliamentary resolution of 1994 in which it was unanimously held that we will recover the whole of Kashmir. Somehow, all kinds of lies were spread by Farooq Abdullah and others that 370 is the link between Kashmir and India. So I'm waiting for the next crisis, which is already here.
Dr. Swamy, very nice to talk to you. First of all, let me begin by saying that we have been following you here, and it's we always keep up with what's happening with you. And so, Dr. Swamy, let me begin by saying that it has been now a year since the abrogation of Article 372,
yes.
And the state entered into the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Now,
Yes.
how do you sense the mood of the people on the ground?
Mood is what? We can't allow a small fraction to dictate the mood. That small crowd is very clean. That they don't allow an impression to grow that everything is now silent and quiet and orderly life is started. And it doesn't take very long, a large number of people to create a media impression that the law and order is broken down or there's in a dangerous situation, so on. Because all you do is a bunch of Pakistanis come and or they're trained people, they go shooting around, and some people die, and that gets the newspaper publicity. So people feel that you can't walk in Srinagar, you can't do business in Srinagar or any of the Kupwara or many of the other places. But the fact is, we are committed by a parliamentary resolution of 1994 in which it was unanimously held that we will recover the whole of Kashmir and make it as an integral part of India. Article 370, when it was introduced in the Constitution, it was introduced as a special measure on the insistence of Jawaharlal Nehru, who didn't insist on anything else, and it was on the fag end of conclusion of the Constituent Assembly proceedings. And then after this, he went off to London, and he left it with Sardar Patel. And Sardar Patel and Ambedkar and Rajendra Prasad, these are the three key figures in the constitution making. Rajendra Prasad was the president, Patel was the chairman of the Fundamental Rights Committee, and Ambedkar was in charge of piloting the bills and the amendment, which amendment to accept, which not to accept. In fact, that was the toughest part of the job, and Ambedkar did it magnificently. And it was decided to conclude on November 26th, 1949, so that on 26th January 1950, the Constitution can be formally declared as adopted. And suddenly this, on 15th of November, Sheikh Abdullah comes and says, Nehru's asked that this also be given as an amendment. And there was a terrific opposition in the Constituent Assembly, and all the other Rajas said, if you give it to the Kashmir Raja, then why not to us also? We have come unconditionally, we have merged everything, we have given it all up, and we are now become ordinary citizens, and you are giving special treatment to this King of Kashmir, who's also signed the same document, the Instrument of Accession. And so they said, Patel said it's for a temporary period because Jawaharlal Nehru has gone to the UN and it will all be over very soon. Never got. And so what is included in the Constitution is that Article 370 is a temporary measure. Okay, number one. Number two, that if the President issues a notification without a parliamentary vote, he can, he can declare it as null and void anytime he wants. And there was a proviso there which became infructuous, that subject to consulting the Constituent Assembly of Jammu Kashmir, which was preparing a separate constitution for Jammu Kashmir as a temporary measure. Now, by the time, that Constituent Assembly for Kashmir wound up its work in 1957, prepared a constitution which the first line is, which is called the preamble, that Jammu Kashmir is an integral part of India. So even if it had been in existence, where's the question of their saying, no, we won't accept what the All India Constituent Assembly is given. So therefore, all that we needed to do was the president issue a notification, which he did. But still our government decided to take a parliamentary vote. And we got 2/3 majority in both houses. So in what way is it illegal, and why we shouldn't do it when it is a temporary measure and 70 years had gone over? And somehow, all kinds of lies were spread by Farooq Abdullah and others that 370 is the link between Kashmir and India, and if that is, India is different from Kashmir, and if 370 is removed, then Kashmir is entitled to go separate. Go back to the old position as a separate country. So all these are lies, and the Pakistanis were taking advantage of that. And then, of course, Islamic fundamentalism, as you know, is not based on logic; it's all emotion, and people are getting killed and killed and killed. And more people were coming from Pakistan, or Pakistan trained people. And this Farooq and later on Mehbooba ran it as if it was their personal fiefdom. There was hardly any development in Kashmir, even though the maximum money, I think three times or 4 times, Uttar Pradesh, Kashmir was getting from the government as transfers. I mean, that is, they don't have to return it back. And there was no development. So somewhere we had to draw a line, and this was part of our manifesto year after year after year. And every year we used to be taunted. No, you will put it in your manifesto so that you get some votes, and after that you forget. So when we didn't forget, they came and said, no, you couldn't have. Tell me one illegality in removing Article 370. Leave aside the question whether there's disturbance or not disturbance. It has to be done because it's an integral part of India. It was originally a place where Shankaracharya went. There was a Hindu rishi called Kashyapa who created Kashmir. The name Kashmir comes from him. He lifted the land from the Dal Lake and drained most of Kashmir of the lake water, and that's how Kashmir came into existence. And we have had Nath Sampradaya there. We have had Raja Tarangani, which is a classic which you can tell you the glorious history of Kashmir. And it is not that later on when the Islamic forces came, we accepted it. Maharaja Ranjit Singh, then Zorawar, all these people went and conquered Kashmir again. It's only after the British came that the king was promoted, and he was a weakling, but he did sign the instrument of accession. So matter is final legally. Now, whether there is uprising, not uprising, I'm not answerable to anybody outside the country. This is an internal insurrection, and we have got to put it down. We don't speak about all the things that are happening in the United States with the black Afro-Americans. We are not speaking about Aborigines in Australia. We know this is your internal problem.
Dr. Swamy, indeed, one reason for this action to have been taken was because Kashmir is an integral part of India. And another reason I'd say is because of terrorism. Now, one of the main...
No, that's not the other reason. That's the third reason. Second reason is 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits who are Hindus were driven out, either forcibly converted, or their women were forcibly married off. All kinds of atrocities which the world doesn't talk about. And if you have about 25 Rohingyas whom we sent back because Rohingyas don't belong in India, they never said they are Indians. They wanted to be Pakistanis. If Pakistan doesn't accept them, and so therefore we become a garbage can to accept them. So therefore I'm saying that the second reason was this enormous atrocity. And I know how much Kashmiri Pandits suffered. And so we said we can't allow this kind of uncertainty to continue. Kashmir we have to make it clear. And third is well, terrorism is there in other places also. That's we have taken care of it. Many places have been pacified. The Northeast has now been completely pacified.
Yes, indeed. Now we were looking at the figures. I mean, they have come down by huge numbers now. The main reason, the third reason, as you mentioned, was to disrupt, dismantle, and disposition the various terror networks that go on in Kashmir.
Yes. Yeah.
How much success have we achieved in that? And we are still seeing a lot of encounters. And
given the mistakes the BJP government made by having this most anti-national alliance with Mehbooba, we have gone to a situation of 2014 now. And very soon we will completely eliminate it. We need 2 years more for that.
So, Dr. Swamy, I mean, apart from Kashmiri people right now, there are also various other sects of Indian population who are very disappointed with this action. And you know the reasons. So, what are you doing to pacify the sentiments of the agitated people?
If they were a substantial number, I would take notice of them. They are JNU trained, lived on government subsidies all their life. And suddenly we are saying, no, if you are going to be in the JNU, you'll have to, within 3 years, pass your bachelor's, get your bachelor's degree. And if you go in for MPhil, you must do it in 2 years. If you have a PhD in 5 years. But you can't be 35 years living on subsidies. You know how much these characters pay after being 35 years in the hostels, 10 rupees a month. I mean, the JNU was a scandal in terms of financial allocations. So I don't pay any attention to them. If they want to starve to death, they are welcome to exercise their fundamental right to starve. But if there was a serious uprising, I would take it seriously. And if it was not supported by foreign elements, foreign missionary organizations, foreign money, and so on, I would take it. These are our people, and let's sit down with them and talk with them. I know so many Kashmiris. I know so many other people in other parts of India. You know, there was a huge genocide carried out during the Congress rule. I'm not talking about the Sikhs. That's another genocide. But with the Muslims in Hashimpura, in Meerut. And 42 young boys were picked up from their houses, taken 20 kilometers and shot one by one and thrown into the river. And nobody took it up. I took it up. Because what these young boys, how were they responsible? None of them had any criminal record. They were all students in schools and or first year college. And they were picked up by these the armed police. It's called PAC in UP, Provincial Armed Constabulary. And nobody took it up. We took it up. So we take up. There's no question. But the issue must be that these people are not foreign inspired. They are not based. They want to talk, and that they have picked up the gun because nobody talked to them. If this is a kind of background, certainly we'll talk to them.
Dr. Swamy, now you're also one of the top economic minds in India. I mean, you have been an economist, and I come from the city of Jammu. I'm a Dogra myself. And these days I have been seeing a lot of sort of disappointment amongst the people because of the economy as far as Jammu is concerned, Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Now, I know your views on the Indian economy right now. So there are different...
You're taking coal to Newcastle, as the old saying goes. There's plenty of coal in Newcastle, so you don't have to take it.
So, yes, I've been really inspired by your ideas on Indian economy. I mean, the abolishment of income tax.
I've got a new book out called Reset.
I have, sir. I've read that. a couple of times.
Okay. Okay.
So, what do you think are the ways to put the economy of Jammu and Kashmir specifically on track now? Because I mean,
what India needs is what the rest of India needs. You see, in the sense, the problem in Jammu is the same as the problem in Tamil Nadu, is the same in Bihar and so on. First and foremost is removing unemployment. Unemployment in India can be only removed in the short run. I mean, it can reduce because much of the bulk of the unemployment is of semi-skilled. And over the years in the Congress rule and Mr. Jaitley, who is also from Jammu, I think, he made a mess.
His
Yes?
Which I know.
But his wife is, yes, okay. Yeah, he's from Punjab. So he didn't listen to anybody. And he did things which enabled the small and medium industries to go kaput. And we had some crazy guy from America called Raghuram Rajan, who said that only by raising interest rates we can control inflation. It's like a doctor saying that only by killing a patient you can reduce the temperature, you see. And all the cost of capital went up and all the small and medium industries all collapsed. And so bad policies are responsible for the present. So what would I say? I would say for Jammu or for any other part of India, abolish income tax first. 2, reduce the interest rates for taking loans. In America, you get a loan for 2%.
2% indeed.
But in India, officially 12%. But after paying corruption, this, that, probably 18%. And if you want it fast, then from the informal sources, which is 25%. And this indebtedness is a terrible thing. And also raise the rate of return or the return on fixed deposits, because Indians love to save. We have the highest saving rate of households in the world in percentage of GDP. So, these are easy to do. But most of all our finance ministers of Mr. Narendra Modi have no idea that economics is, there are 2 branches of economics. One is microeconomics and there's macroeconomics. And what the economic laws that operate in microeconomics don't operate in macroeconomics. For instance, if price goes down, then demand will go up. That is the microeconomics. But supposing I reduce the wage rate, it doesn't mean people will employ more. Because what will happen is that you have cut the wages across the board, then the demand also goes down, the purchasing power goes down, and so industries start closing down, and then they'll start cutting on labor employment. And therefore, by cutting wages, you are actually increasing unemployment, which is what brought Americans to a depression in 1930. So, I mean, you need that kind of macroeconomic mind. But Modi hasn't been able to get anyone he likes. I mean, there are. I had done this kind of work in 1990, 91, 92. The economic reform plans were prepared by me. 2 prime ministers gave me free hand, one Chandrasekhar and then Narasimha Rao. And we had Manmohan Singh to implement it as finance minister. So it was done. Here today, my problem is that I'm also a politician. And Indians have a very deep insecurity about another politician who is also publicly popular. Should be me and no one else. That's the Indian mentality.
That's why they say that Dr. Swamy is the best finance minister we never had.
Yeah. Well, I functioned as a finance minister when Chandrasekhar was there.
Yes,
and in the sense that I was a commerce minister and law. I wanted 2 portfolios, so he said that I won't give you finance.
You also created the 91 reforms, which...
Yes, economic reforms I prepared, got it passed by our cabinet, implemented by Narasimha Rao. If you read Narasimha Rao's biography, they all say the first house he visited after taking oath was my house, and grabbed me and took me.
Senapati's biography.
Yes, that mentions it, yes.
But Dr. Swamy,
But Mr. Modi feels that I'm not controllable. I'm only persuadable, but I can't be controlled. That's true.
no, so. Dr. Swamy, let's say 10 years from now,
Yes.
you see Jammu and Kashmir.
10 years from now, from my projections and probabilistic analysis, India will be a superpower in 10 years. And I said this in 1990 also, when everybody thought we are doomed, that India will grow at 8% per year. People couldn't believe it, because for 40 years we grew at 3.5% per year. And then in Narasimha Rao's period, we reached 8% within 5 years. And then 8% has not been difficult. I think now we can grow at 10% or 12%. And we do that for 10 years. And we can, and we will, because a crisis always brings out the best in an Indian.
So you say
all crises have led to change. We had a food crisis in 1965. It was followed by Green Revolution. We had a financial exchange, foreign exchange crisis in 1990. It was followed by economic reforms. So I'm waiting for the next crisis, which is already here.
So that means we are heading to a great reform now in the coming time.
Following really going to the dumps in the next 1 year.
All right, Dr. Swamy, on that note, I know you're a busy person now. You have taken a lot of other things in hand as well. So with the Sushant Singh Rajput case as well, Dr. Swamy, we express our gratitude. I mean, you're doing these things on public.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had promised I'll get CBI, got it. Now they are saying, no, you must stay so that the investigation is fair. So I'm considering whether I should do that. I will probably do that, because I have now come to the conclusion that there's not personal enmity which killed him, but it was basically that he didn't obey the cartel. He was a bad example for other people coming in who are talented. And he was not an ordinary fellow who failed in all exams in school and therefore he went to the cinema. He came 7th in the All India engineering exam for Delhi School of Engineering, which is a very prestigious thing. He got scholarships from abroad, which he gave up. And then he decided to be a cinema actor. So we don't, he's not, the only problem was he got 3 opportunities and he performed brilliantly. And now they said this guy's out of control. He has the same problem as me. So I have a little sympathy. Only it's more difficult to get to me in the way they could get to him, because he had social habits which were that of a cinema star, and so he became an easy target.
Dr. Swamy, always a pleasure talking to you. We're looking forward to many more occasions to talk.
Okay.